Well, it's almost back to the good old days here as 1-0 to the Distillery has very much returned. We've got two big games today which could lead to disappointment, and while we've not been vintage recently, maybe to be expected with so many changes, we've really got to start finding results in these games. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 162 of this Build a Nation story, Lifting Spirits with me, Daniel. We are back today as promised for a huge game away at Atletico Madrid with both sides struggling a little in the Champions League. And then we host Derry City in the All-Ireland Cup final second leg. We trail after the first due to some bizarre circumstances over the international break. If you're looking forward to seeing how we get on with both of them, as we've got a couple of injuries that are ravaging our defence as well, and please do put a thumbs up on the video. But let's for now go and talk about one new addition who we're going to have coming in January, and a few results that have been, well, efficient rather than spectacular. So let's go and start with a transfer, because we've got one player coming in January in addition to Tennant Harding, and I'm kind of on the approach for two style of players to come in now. One is ready-made superstars who can come in and be part of the first team squad. The other is sort of teenagers who are going to be brilliant in the future that we can afford to take a punt on now we've got the bigger budgets. And this guy, well, he certainly fits into that category. Aaron Simmons popped up in a recent scout report. He is an 18-year-old left winger at Manchester City, a position we're not wholly convincing in a minute, having lost Vladimir after his loan last year. And Aaron Simmons, well, he may well replace the current loan player we've got from City. He's a good footballer, has been held back a little bit by a recent hernia, and is a bit more of a traditional winger. However, got all the core attributes to become a very good player. Physically good, mentally solid enough, and has got a bit of experience in the England youth setup. So I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing what he can deliver. We'll try and get him a bit of football domestically, and maybe even loan him out if the right move comes along. But someone who, for the future, with fairly big potential according to the assistants and the scouting team, just made sense. He's got about £2,500 a week of wages coming his way. We can't turn those opportunities down. We've also now got the sell-on clause for Owen Kidd, which wasn't here before this episode, and they're offering us 1.2 million for his 30%, which I think is a great deal. The reason his value has gone up is because I gave him his Northern Ireland debut due to a huge number of defensive injuries. But we're going to bring in a bit more money as a result of that, which means we've now had 4.2 million for Owen Kidd. A quick apology as well. You're going to hear the mouse clicking during this episode because my silent mouse has broken. There's not much I can do about it, but hopefully it won't put you off a great deal. Now let's go and have a look at the schedule, because there have been bundles of games since you were last here. You were with me for that brilliant draw against Dortmund, which was heartbreaking but also a fantastic effort for the club. And since then you can see a couple of disappointments and a really bizarre situation around the international breaks, because in October, the first game after you were with me, we were offered the opportunity to cancel the Cove Rangers game because we had 11 players on international duty. I turned it down because we had enough to cover the squad. I think we had to play one really poor player at centre-half somewhere, but otherwise we were okay. Then fast forward a month to November and the Derry City game in the Irish Champions Cup final, and we didn't get the same opportunity to move the first leg. The second leg moved itself, which was weird enough, but the first leg we weren't allowed to move. For that one we had 21 players on international duty and didn't have a full defence available, as well as only having our third keeper. But hopefully for the second leg, with the fixtures pretty nicely spread out, we'll be able to get them back. I'm really surprised we only lost that 2-1. However, since you were with me, a 4-2 win at Cove Rangers, you can see from the squad there was a little bit of a rotated team, but it was still pretty strong. Mainly the bench that wasn't up to scratch. We had Trevor Davis and Miraval Austin get one apiece, with Mark Scully getting a brace. That Ross Rogan, by the way, not a great player by any shakes, but was brilliant there. We then won 1-0 away at Crusaders in the Antrim Shield, playing much weaker sides generally in that competition. Tennant Harding got a run out, as did Sean McGuckin, and we nicked it 1-0 through Jordan Howard. We beat them 5-1 in the league with a Scully hat-trick, as well as Evans and Missalidis getting one apiece, and then against Milan, it was disappointment. The Champions League group we've got this time, we mentioned we had 2 really easy home games, which we've won. The rest of the group's a bit of a nightmare, and we're going to have to pick up a few more Dortmund-esque results to get through. Milan was not that occasion, a 2-0 home defeat. Merivale Austin picking up another knock. Mark Scully was awful as well. Against Warren Point in the League Cup, a 4-1 win. Scully got the penalty from the start, and then Howard got a hat-trick off the bench. A 5-0 win at home to Ballymena, with Howard scoring 4 and Scully getting 1. This time they reversed, it was Scully off the bench. A 4-0 win against Warren Point in the league, 2 for Howard, 1 for Albert Press, and 1 for Cameron Thompson. Very Northern Irish affair off the bench there. And then against Apoel in the Champions League, by far the easiest game we've had. A 5-0 win, Dunn, Evans and Vucinic all scoring, Mark Scully getting a brace. Vucinic is worth noting, really developing well now. His crossing ability's improved, he's become 3.5-star ability, and if Paleka hadn't thrown his toys out the pram, we probably could have had a player like that on both sides. But we've got one, we can't complain. He's been a very good replacement for Stephen Cowan. Away at Glentoran, we won by 4-0. Lonsdale, a Scully brace and Cameron Thompson. Again, the same result against the same opposition, this time in the League Cup 3 days later. Dunn, Bird, Howard and Misselidis after an early red card for their top scorer. A 2-1 defeat at Derry City, which you can see caused a little bit of a ruckus with the squad we played. So, if I make this right, we had Paul Brown playing right back, Gavin Reid covering centre half, Ashley Doherty was in goal. Lord knows when he last played for us. In midfield, we had Morgan Griffiths playing in a central 2, and then off the bench, it was McGuckin and an injured Evans. So I think we actually finished the game with 10, but it was a bit of a nightmare all over. Evans did recover 5 days later, scored a winner in the Antrim Shield. It was a first-minute opener. We then had to go to 10 behind the ball because Chris Houston got sent off after 20 minutes. Big Cup semi-final against a big team. I don't need to tell you what occurred there. And then another injury, this time to Miles Stow, left us very short of defenders. We got the same scoreline away at Coleraine at the weekend. Mark Scully scored the goal. A 1-0 win, a bit of rotation. The likes of Thompson, Harding and Freeman all came into defence. And Freeman deserves a mention. He has broken into the Northern Ireland squad. He made his debut in the last international break. It was part of a relegation in the Nations League. But what a pro, what a man. He's going to be a star. He's going to be the legend come the end of this save. So really decent form overall. Bit worried about the Champions League and the All-Ireland Cup. But we're in a good position. Let's not be complaining about it. The worry for the rest of the Champions League is we've got Barcelona at home, Lyon away, West Ham away, and of course Athletico today. Do we pick up any more points from that? I'm not so sure we do. Lyon, of course, aren't as strong as they were when they knocked us out 2 years ago. You remember, Linfield won the second leg against them, but just didn't get through. And on that subject, very quickly, before we head into our games, Linfield and Larne also back in the European group stages this year. Linfield have had a rocky ride. They beat Slavia Prague 2-0 with our former man Kashif beaten scoring, but a heartbreaking defeat against PSV, just 1-0 at Everton, and then played off the park by Lille. But again, Hajduk away on the last day might be winnable. If they want to get through though, they've probably got to beat Atalanta or Monaco at home. I'm not sure they do that. Larne on the flip side though, are flying on their return. They won at home against Aris on the opening day. They then got a draw away from home against Milsami or Hay, I presume that's how it's pronounced, and then drew at home to Dnipro as well. I'd expect them to beat Slovan Liberec, and that should be enough to see them through. So, Larne definitely making progress and returning in style. For us though, it's all about the Champions League. We go away to Atletico Madrid. Derry City still in there as well. They're playing Marseille. They bring through Northern Irish players, so it does help a lot. But let's get through the tactical meeting, see what team we can put out. They've got world-class players to be closed down. I don't think they've got any originals left. That ain't going to make it any easier. Well, this is what we've gone for, and it is basically back to full strength, but we've taken a couple of gambles physically, and on the bench we're left with not many options. So, Merivale Austin is back in immediately after injury. 75 minutes recommended, but I've seen him come off injured in this position before. The problem on the bench is a lack of defenders, so Leo O'Donnell's just back from injury. I'm not risking him. I'm sticking with Davis and Bird, who played last year. Stow's nowhere near. Freeman and Thompson both tired, who I've got to protect because they're my international stars. And Vucinic, who's a bit tired too. So it means that the 11 in full is Morrison in goal, Reid and Urza the fullbacks with Davis and Bird at centre-half. Bayavang and Gash the midfield too. Really looking to move Gash on in January now, but that interest is just drying up a little bit. Merivale Austin back in on the right, Evans now a traditional winger on the left, and Lonsdale behind Mark Scully up front. Lonsdale reaching his peak now, looking brilliant. Let's see if he delivers tonight. Well, a few absolute superstars to be closed down for Atletico. I don't think there's any originals left, albeit there's one on the bench in Amad Diallo. And keep an eye on the bench for number 34, Azier, because he is a brilliant left back who, when he first came through, had an 80 grand release clause and is one that back in the banger save we probably would have got. But in this save, he had no interest in joining. If he'd come in, we wouldn't have had to pay 10 million for Urza because we would have done the job for 80 grand. He's brilliant and he's still good enough to start for our team now. So that's the difference in quality as we get through the dressing room. Let's get through the music, the tunnel interview. We'll be back in a minute for first half highlights. Well, 20 minutes in and we're back for an Athletico corner, which is very frustrating. So if you look at the stats in a minute as that's headed over the bar, we have been dominant according to them, but not good enough to see our chances on camera. Now, we've dropped to a balanced mentality as we do away to all the big boys in Europe and all the mediocre boys as well, to be honest, but it does allow us to catch teams out on a counter. Atletico, not like some of the others we've played where they've got a big team of old boys, but they might be a little susceptible as Gavin Reed gets in. Probably not the man I wanted in that position. They've got the higher expected goals. They've come back into the game. And of course, we're having very little of the ball. But we are definitely competitive. And again, maybe it's going to be our route through this year. And I might be speaking too soon here, but we saw it at Dortmund. If we can nick 2 or 3 draws against these big boys, instead of trying to win the games outright, then maybe that'll be enough with the 2 home wins against the sort of whipping boys of the group. As Austin puts the ball in, Scully's up. Oh, brilliant save. Onto the post and then cleared off the line. That was the chance. It was sensational goalkeeping. And at half-time, despite that brilliant header from Scully, it stays 0-0. But I'm really pleased with the performance. We've been so competitive. But again, you look at the weaknesses in a team. Lonsdale and Davis, the 2 worst outfield performers. Davis is only starting because of O'Donnell's injury. Lonsdale's only starting because Vucinic isn't fit. And now, Ingo Atletico, it's a good save from Morrison. He's not played a lot this year. His morale's poor because he threw his toys out the pram. Another one we may move on for the right price. As Scully flicks on his goal kick to Lonsdale. Oh, he's put it wide. Oh, we've missed 2 glorious chances in this game. One either side of the break. The first one was a brilliant bit of goalkeeping. That one, an inexcusable finish. And Lonsdale's supposed to be good in front of goal. As Merivale Austin gets it wide to Reed. I've tried to put my Football Manager shirt on for luck, but I've not got any from it. And at the hour mark, I've probably got to look at taking the wingers off because they're both knackered and they're both pretty prone to injury. I'm trying to decide whether to go for the best finishers, whether to gamble on certain people doing 20 minutes, but I think we've got to play safe. Urza is going to come off at left back, but the only player I've got is Thompson, who's not fit. He'll do for 20 minutes though. On the left-hand side, it'll be Misselidis on for Evans. He'll be an inverted winger. Again, apologies for the mouse clicking. It's one of those things. On the right-hand side, we're going to go for... I'm still going to bring Vucinic on. Or do I go Howard? No, I'm going to go Jordan Howard. Let's try and get in behind. Lonsdale was the number 10, replaced by Damien Dunn. Maybe I go for Trevor Davis off. Again, what centre-half do I bring on? There's nobody else on the bench. So it's going to have to be a midfielder, but I'm going to gamble and take Gash off instead. I'll replace him with Houston. Might even switch those 2 round there. No, we'll leave it as is. We have got 20 minutes plus stoppage time to go. And for now, I'm not sure what to go for. Do I push Bayavang forward? He's tired. Let's put the fresh legs in midfield. Bayavang will go number 10. We'll switch those 2 round. We've got 20 minutes to go. It's 0-0 in Spain. I would bite your hand off for this result, but the 2 chances we've missed, we should be winning. And now it's an Atletico corner. It's going to be heartbreak. Oh, not like that. Off the line from the first corner. And it's just fallen to the man a yard out. He anticipates first. We don't react. And it's 1-0 Atletico in a game where we have had more than enough chances to be level. We're going to throw ourselves forward for stoppage time. But it's going to be a heartbreaking 1-0 defeat. A great effort. And I think the one thing you can take from the last year or so, Chelsea away towards the back end of last season, and more importantly, Dortmund and Atletico away this season. We are competing now with the bigger boys. We've got better players in the team, but it's not quite enough. And on this occasion, we really missed O'Donnell at the back. Let's go and get through to our next game. We've got 6 days off, thankfully. We'll be back in a minute for Derry City. And to win that trophy, we've got to overturn a deficit. Well, as we return, looking for revenge in a Northern Ireland v Ireland battle. This time it's a domestic one, but we've got it on the international front too. We are the top 2 seeds for what is a fairly friendly European Championship qualifying group. We missed out on our last World Cup. We got relegated in the Nations League, but you've got to be honest, we've got to get out of that group. Cyprus, Lithuania and Hungary, all beatable sides. We have got to make sure we do the job. In international honours, I know I've mentioned a few debuts and that during this episode, but not been a great performance to be honest. We did get a win against Wales. David Close scored both of those. Albert Press scored in a narrow defeat against England as well. But the final day against Wales, we just ran out of steam. We had about 4 or 5 key players injured. And this is not a Northern Ireland side that can afford that. Most of the star players are rotation options for us, which tells you where they are. But let's get back to Distillery. There may well be some more transfer news on the way and slightly bigger transfer news as well, because we have got some interest in a player who is, well, maybe going to be joining the club. We're getting a scout report on him at the moment just to see if he's the standard we want. As interestingly, the left back from Atletico Madrid must have liked what he's seen because now he's apparently interested in joining. But we have been looking at a player from Aberdeen who is very good. However, he just picked up a little knock. Dominic Toff is a 23-year-old English midfielder. He has got a 9 million release clause and will accept a decent wage. I've got a feeling he might be the next into the club. If we can get him out, and maybe Jordan Gash we can get 2/3 of the money for, I feel that's a pretty good deal because he's played well in Europe, he's played well in the Scottish Prem, and he looks like a slight upgrade across the board. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. For now though, let's go and get through to the fixtures. It's all about tonight with Distillery. We are 2-1 down after the first leg against Derry City. In that game, we played a hugely rotated side. But this is a Derry City team that is also in the Champions League. We just saw them play really well in group stage action. What result did they get? They were 0-0 draw against Marseille. They've drawn with Newcastle. They've been picking up results. They beat TNS by more than we did. And they beat AC Milan away from home. Okay, so this is turning into Wraith Rovers in the Bangor City save, isn't it? Linfield have outdone us domestically. They've won a European trophy. And now Derry City are going to be the story of the save with a number of very good players from Northern Ireland. They are a Northern Irish side, but they're playing in the Republic League for political reasons largely. But let's go and get through to the big game today. A sellout crowd, a few changes will be needed, but this is about winning a trophy. Let's go and see if we can overturn a deficit. Well, due to a heavy match load, injury risk and poor recent form, Jordan Gash drops out. Stow is still not fit and Gavin Reid joins him in the treatment room. That means that young Matthew Freeman is tasked with playing right back today. Merival Austin moves into number 10 with Vucinic coming in on the right hand side. With Gash dropping out, that means Lonsdale is the man to drop into centre midfield. Lee O'Donnell also returns at centre half with Trevor Davis dropping to the bench. And aside from that, it is the team that almost got a result at Athletico. We've stuck with Morrison in goal for this one. Hassan has just thrown his toys out the pram about not starting enough games. I mean, he was injured the first month of the season. He's played all bar one league game and half the Champions League games. Blows my mind. Let's go and get through to the big second leg. This is a genuine test against another Champions League team. We've beaten them to get to the group stages a couple of times. They've done the same to us. But who will come out on top tonight? We've not lost this trophy for a couple of years, and I don't intend on that changing now. Well, here we go. It is 6 changes for Derry City, who have got their number 2 goalkeeper from Northern Ireland in goal. Philip Buchanan is just behind Morgan Hassan in that setup, and here he is going to be involved. Sean Ball up front is always popped up as a signing. He's very similar to Jordan Howard, and on the bench they've still got a bit of quality. So let's go and get through the first half. We're going to ask for revenge in this game. We've got a motivated team, but we've got a team that's trailing. And this season, the goals haven't flowed quite as much. We need that to change tonight. 2 defeats in 5 because of the Champions League. And we're going straight from the kickoff in the first half, which is not often a good sign, as Reese gets the ball at the back to Kane Edwards. Into midfield he goes. You can see we're in a bit of a deeper shape here, but we are going to try and dominate the game. If it ends up turning into a Champions League style one, we will move backwards. We've nicked the ball here very early. Marival Austin gets it. 1-2, bit of a lucky touch there. Is Scully onside? He is. It's a dream start. They give the ball away to Marival Austin. His first through ball was awful. Hit the defender and bobbled back to him. And he made it count in fairness. Vucinic lays in Scully. And Josip Vucinic is quickly becoming a star of this team. He's becoming that Vladimir. He's being the man. And oh, if we could get Vladimir back, what a turn up that would be. As Marival Austin finds Freeman, chips over to Bayavang, who must be offside. He is. The flag goes up, but we're back on level pegging in terms of the tie. We're ahead on the night. We got the crowd behind us. And isn't it nice to see the stadium full as O'Donnell puts a big free kick in. Marival Austin can't win it, but it falls for Vucinic. This time on the left, but goes to the byline. Cuts back to Lonsdale, who's got time in possession. And behind him is Urza. He gets it wide to Bird, who's still forward here. Not sure why he's out on the left wing though, as Lonsdale plays in Scully. And he heads just over. Looking a big threat up top tonight. And Lisburn Distillery are in form. A quarter of the game gone. We're 1-0 up, and they have not had a shot. We're just a minute to the break now, as we've got one added on. And again, we're dominating the game without taking chances. There are some games that we've won 2 or 3-0 and even 1-0. We've had 3.5, 4.5, even 6.5 expected goals in some. And we've just not scored as many goals as the chances we're creating. That will probably come with time. But for now, it is a worry in a game like this, where we do need more than one. As Bayavang gives it to Lonsdale and Scully. Good turn, and he's got a man running on the left. Instead play short to Urza, who's definitely settling down in that left back position. As Berg gets it out to him again. Chance to come forward with it, and he does. Turns back to Bird. Again, not the worst decision to keep the ball, as Bayavang can look for the through ball there. Headed away by Jarrett, only as far as Vucinic. Goes for the shot himself. And it's the final one of the half, just over the bar. It stays 1-0 on the night. It's been a really good display, terrific in fact. But it's still level on aggregate, and it only takes one moment. Let's point the finger, say we're not happy about it. We want more goals. We want more from this team. And if you can deliver what you're capable of, this could yet be a very good night. Evans disappointing on the left again. He's not had the best season so far. And he is a young player with not a lot of senior football behind him. But it is a worry. Marival Austin is knackered as well. We know about his fitness issues. So on comes Damien Dunn as the number 10. Misselidis as the player off the left as an inverted winger on attack. And in centre midfield, Lonsdale will come off for Houston. And we're going to go for Thompson on at left back maybe. Not just yet. In fact, we can't make more than 3 in this competition, can we? So we're going to have to leave it at that. As Jarrett's got a throw in here to Kane Edwards. This is the problem when you don't take your chances. It only takes one mistake to fall behind again. As Berg gets it to Urza, we do well to win that back. Big switcher play towards Vucinic, and it's down for Bayavang. Great first touch to take it away from his man. He's had a very good season so far. Cuts it back to Freeman, who's been solid at right back. Heavy touch there, but finds Vucinic. Shot deflects to Scully. Down for Vucinic again. Oh, tipped onto the post. That's why that goalkeeper is in my Northern Ireland squads. That is stunning goalkeeping. And in both games now, we've had a brilliant effort tipped onto the post. I don't really know how this is only 1-0. We've been so good. I'm going to encourage the lads because we're putting in some effort. But the lads have not responded. I thought they'd act as if they weren't ahead in this game. It seems that's not the case. As Dunn puts the corner in, there's Buchanan again. Oh, he's been brilliant. What a day to come up against an international star in form. Big ball downfield over the top. Goes straight through to the other keeper, Morrison. And he plays it out first time to Bird. Short to Urza, who may look over for Scully. Chips it into midfield for Bayavang. Good football from him, looking forward every time. Into Mark Scully. The flag is, I think, up. No, yes, it is. It was a delayed reaction. It stays 1-0. Frustration continues. As Misselidis chips in a free kick, O'Donnell loses out. Vucinic down, but only to Houlihan. He brings it away, but only as far as Misselidis, who stops him in his tracks. O'Donnell finds him again. Options forward, plays Vucinic and Bayavang. Damien Dunn's in. Damien Dunn, it's a great save. Oh my word. What a performance from Philip Buchanan. He is keeping them in this game. As the ball's headed away, it's pinball from a corner. O'Donnell down for Misselidis and Bayavang. Good composure to get it wide to Dunn. And O'Donnell will play a 1-2 with him. Where is the moment of magic? Because this goalkeeper is having the game of his life. Freeman finds Bird. Got to go backwards. O'Donnell will start again. But we're not going anywhere fast as Bird goes wide to the left to Urza. Down the line is Misselidis. This is the one. Two in the middle. Damien Dunn. It's blocked by the defender. How have we not scored a second? Seriously. It's one of the best performances we've put in for a long time and against a very good team. But it's a Damien Dunn corner and the frustration continues. To the back post it goes. Headed away. We might be heading for extra time here. Or are we? Because here come Derry City. After all of that dominance, they're not going to do it, are they? Morrison picks the ball up. I've got to praise the lads. They've been magnificent. As Morrison gets it in goal. I love to see Buchanan's rating at the end of this. Big ball forward from Morrison. Misselidis down for Scully. Good ball back to Bayavang, who tries to release him again. Chambers does well defensively, but Vucinic gets there. What a game he's had as well on the right. Chance to cut inside, but releases Freeman on the overlap. Matthew Freeman back to Vucinic and Bayavang. Options in the middle. He's at the byline. Cuts it back to Freeman. Crosses to Damien Dunn. Oh, he's gone back. What are you doing? O'Donnell plays Houston. Just had to turn and shoot. As Freeman gets it on the right. Please let it lead to the goal. Misselidis is up. Misselidis scores. How much can you deserve a goal? That was sensational. That's why we have a 6 foot something at the back post. A brilliant ball in. It's 2-0. Matthew Freeman sets it up with a brilliant cross. And there is a glimpse into the future. Brilliant from the young right back. A wonderful team move. And you know what? It took till stoppage time. But that was an exhilarating performance. That's what I want my team to be. We've had 2 Champions League teams in succession here in 2 different competitions. And we played brilliantly against both of them. So proud of the effort. We lift the All-Ireland Champions Cup. But my word, our Northern Ireland goalkeeper, he made that very difficult. Let's go and have a look at the schedule and see when we're going to be back. Well, after a goal in the first and last minute wrap up a trophy against another side in the Champions League this season, we need to get back to European fixtures, and we will do so at the end of January. 2 successive games towards the end of the transfer window. You've already seen a couple of players we're hoping to bring in, and one that will be joining as well. Lyon away, the side that put us out in our first Champions League season, and the side that got to the groups by beating Linfield on penalties, followed by West Ham United, who, if you remember rightly, Linfield beat in the Europa Conference final, albeit with a Mourinho-esque display. So those are the 2 games we're going to show, maybe a couple more big additions and departures at that point too. Let me know if you think the other sides will get through in Europe. Larne did pick up another point away at Standard Liège, which is a brilliant effort. Linfield probably in a bit of trouble. If you want to stay up to date, find out how it goes, and you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know what you thought of the performances and the potential ins in the future. Subscribe and turn that notification bell on to stay up to date. We'll be back with a very interesting episode of Built in Bristol tomorrow before this returns in 2 days' time. But thank you very much for watching. Your support is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you back here next time for a big transfer window and 2 decisive games in the Champions League groups.